The scream came first. It ripped through the hospital hallway so sharply that Daniel Reed nearly dropped the paper bag holding his daughter's asthma medicine. Fluorescent lights buzzed above him. Nurses rushed past in blue scrubs. Somewhere nearby, a monitor began beeping in frantic, uneven bursts. Daniel froze, breathing hard, staring at the room number in front of him, then down at the wrinkled slip in his hand. He had come to the hospital for his 6-year-old daughter, Mia, who had spent the night in pediatric observation after another terrifying asthma attack. He was exhausted, broke, and half running on panic. But in that one chaotic moment, with alarms crying from behind the wrong door, he made the mistake that would change everything. He pushed the door open. The room was dim, quiet except for the sharp electronic warning tone. Rain tapped softly against the tall window. On the bed lay a woman who looked like she was slipping out of the world. Her face was pale, her dark hair streaked with silver, her breathing shallow beneath the blanket. An oxygen line curved across her cheeks. Beside the bed sat untouched tea, expensive flowers, and a silence so heavy it felt personal. The green line on the monitor shivered in a way Daniel didn't like. "Hey," he called, stepping closer without thinking. "Somebody." The woman's eyes opened. They were weak, but they were not empty. They fixed on him with startling force, as if even now she was measuring him. Daniel had no medical training, no reason to be there, and no right to touch anything in that room. He was just a poor single dad in a worn jacket, holding a pharmacy bag and carrying too much fear in his chest. Still, he moved to the bedside and pressed the call button. "You're okay," he said, voice rough. "You're not alone." For a second, the woman stared at him like those words mattered more than the machine beside her. Then her lips parted. "Not him," she whispered. Daniel frowned and leaned in. "What?" Before she could answer, nurses rushed in, followed by a doctor. The room exploded into movement. One nurse shot Daniel a sharp look. "Sir, step outside now." "I'm sorry," Daniel said quickly. "I had the wrong room. I heard the alarm." Outside, he backed into the hallway, heart pounding. The door closed, shutting him out. He stood there with the medicine bag in one hand and his shame rising hot in his throat. Of course he had entered the wrong room. Of course even in a hospital he couldn't get one thing right. He looked at his slip again. Room 412. He was standing outside 421. Daniel let out a tired breath and dragged a hand over his face. Then he forced himself down the hall to Mia's room. She was sitting up in bed when he entered, her little curls messy against the pillow, a cartoon blanket over her legs. The moment she saw him, her tired face lit up. "Daddy." That one word always broke him and rebuilt him at the same time. "Hey, bug." He kissed her forehead. "Got your medicine. You look weird," she said. He laughed softly. "Thank you. Very kind." "No, I mean sad weird." Daniel sat beside her and looked toward the rain-streaked window. "I opened the wrong hospital room." Mia blinked. "Did somebody yell at you?" "A little." "Did you deserve it?" He smiled despite himself. "Maybe." She studied him with those quiet, observant eyes that were too much like her late mother's. "What happened?" "There was a lady in there," he said carefully. "She was really sick." "Was she alone?" The question hit him harder than expected. "Yeah," he said, "she was." Mia looked down at her blanket. "That's the worst time to be alone." Daniel swallowed. "I know." He stayed with her until evening. A doctor said her breathing had improved enough for her to go home, but Daniel barely heard half the instructions. His phone buzzed with a message from work. "Need you tonight. Can you come or not?" He stared at it. Rent was late. The electric bill was past due. But Mia had just been discharged, and there was no one else to leave her with. "Daughter just got out of hospital," he typed back. "Can't tonight." The reply came fast. "Then don't come tomorrow either." Daniel stared at the screen until it blurred. Just like that, the job was gone. Have you ever had life hit you so hard, so quietly, that you couldn't even react at first? He slipped the phone back into his pocket before Mia could see. He smiled for her. He signed the discharge forms. He carried her small backpack and held her hand toward the elevator. That was when a man in a dark suit stepped into their path. "Mr. Reed." Daniel stopped. "Yeah, the patient in room 421 asked to see you." He almost laughed from pure disbelief. "Wrong guy." "No, sir. The woman you found earlier." Mia tugged Daniel's sleeve. "Daddy, is that the lonely lady?" The suited man looked slightly confused. Daniel exhaled slowly. "We need to go home." The patient insisted. Mia looked up at him. Maybe she wants to say thank you. Daniel hesitated. Everything in him said walk away. Rich-looking people with private security and silent hallways were not his world. Their problems crushed people like him. But then he remembered the woman's eyes. The way she had whispered, not him. So he followed the suited man back. The room was quieter now, lit by the fading gray of evening. The woman sat propped against her pillows, a light shawl around her shoulders. Up close she looked older, maybe in her late 60s, elegant even in sickness. Her face carried the kind of sadness money couldn't hide. Her eyes moved first to Mia. "And who is this?" she asked softly. "My daughter," Daniel said. "Mia." Mia gave a shy little wave. "Hi." For the first time, the woman smiled. It was small, fragile, but real. "Hello, Mia." Then she looked back at Daniel. "You entered my room by mistake," she said. "Yes, ma'am, and instead of leaving, you came closer. There was an alarm. There is always an alarm around me lately," she said. Daniel didn't know what to say. The woman folded her trembling hands. "My name is Eleanor Vale." Daniel nodded, though the name meant nothing to him. Eleanor seemed to notice. Something unreadable flickered across her face. "That may be refreshing." She studied him for a long moment. "You told me I wasn't alone." Daniel shifted awkwardly. "You look like you shouldn't be." For a second, her composure cracked. Not dramatically, just enough for the loneliness underneath to show. "Most people who come into this room want something from me," she said. "You looked like you wanted to run." "That's also true," Daniel admitted. Mia giggled. Eleanor's eyes softened at the sound. Then she asked, "You're raising her alone?" Daniel nodded once. "Her mother." The room went still. "Gone," he said quietly. Eleanor lowered her eyes. "I had a daughter once." Daniel looked up. "She died when she was 9, Eleanor said. "A long time ago." Silence stretched between them, thick with grief old and new. Mia stepped forward and held out a folded paper she had been drawing on all afternoon. It showed a shaky stick figure woman in a hospital bed and 2 smaller figures beside her. "This is you not being alone anymore," Mia said. Eleanor took the paper in trembling fingers and stared at it as if it hurt to look and hurt more not to. "Thank you," she whispered. A knock sounded at the door. A doctor entered with a woman in an expensive coat and a man in a navy suit carrying a folder. The warmth in the room vanished instantly. "Eleanor," the woman said, too smoothly, "we need to discuss tomorrow." Eleanor's face turned cold. "Get out." The man with the folder stepped forward. "There are documents requiring your signature." "I said get out." Daniel felt the tension like static in the air. The woman in the coat glanced at him and Mia with open irritation, as if poor people offended the furniture. They left. After the door shut, Daniel looked at Eleanor. "We should go." But Eleanor lifted a hand. "Come back tomorrow," she said. Daniel frowned. "Why?" "Because I need one honest person in this building." He gave a tired laugh. "You don't even know me." "I know enough. I have my daughter. I have problems of my own." Eleanor's gaze didn't move. "So do I, and I may not have much time left to solve them." The words hung in the air. Daniel didn't promise. He just nodded slightly, the way people do when they don't know how to say no without sounding cruel. He picked up Mia and left. Outside, the rain had turned to mist. The bus ride home was quiet. Mia leaned against him, sleepy and warm. Daniel stared at his reflection in the dark window and thought about the room, the private security, the expensive visitors, the dying woman with sorrow in her eyes and steel in her voice. "Daddy," Mia murmured, half asleep. "Yeah, was she rich?" Daniel blinked. "Why do you ask that?" "She had rich blankets, but sad eyes." He looked down at her and almost smiled. When they reached their apartment, a note from the landlord was wedged in the door. Final warning. Inside, the place was cold. Daniel gave Mia her medicine, tucked her into bed, and sat alone at the kitchen